Okay, hello everybody. Are we back? So now, oh, look how organised we all are. Amazing. So we now have a panel, a Q&A discussion on inclusive communities and also inclusive community engagement. So it's lovely to welcome such a fantastic array of panelists. So we have Dr Caroline Oates, Dr Cath Bannister, Mark Norman and Joana Varanda. So can we all welcome them with a round of applause? Is that possible? Let's have a little go with our reactions menu. Oh, fantastic. Good. Lovely. Okay, so what we're going to do first is just a quick introduction. Everyone's going to give a 5-minute introduction to who they are and their work. So we're actually going to start with Joana because Joanna's prepared a video for us. Let me just move that out of the way. Fabulous. And I'm going to share my screen now so we can watch the video. So again, if you're in a headset, you won't necessarily be able to see this. So do join us on your mobile phone temporarily. It takes a little while just to get this connected. Okay, let's see if that's, there we go. Right, I can see that video there, so everybody else should be able to see the video. If you can't see it, do try and refresh the page because that often helps.
Hello, and thank you for the invitation to contribute to today's Cultural Futures Conference. My name is Joana Varanda, and I'm the human behind the cat, founder of Superstition Sam and the zine Salt and Mirrors and Cats, where I explore the intersections of heritage, folklore, creativity, and well-being. With a master's in socially engaged practice in museums and galleries from the University of Leicester, alongside a background in writing, illustration, and animation, my research takes an interdisciplinary approach to folklore, emphasizing empathy, collaboration, and involvement, a term I prefer over inclusion, inspired by a quote often referenced in the museum sector. Having a seat at the table is a necessary but not sufficient condition for exercising voice. As a disabled and neurodivergent researcher, I see involvement as a critical alternative to inclusion, a perspective which is inspired by the social model of disability. This framework, widely used in the museum sector, for instance by the Research Centre for Museums and Galleries or Wellcome Collection, recognizes that systematic barriers, such as in-person events and academic tone, are what excludes disabled people from full participation in society, rather than their individual conditions. Instead of expecting individuals to conform or seek a cure, the model places the responsibility on institutions and society to create equitable spaces, therefore creating opportunities to get involved rather than merely included, and ensuring that marginalized communities are active collaborators, not just tokenistic presences. Principles that should also be embraced in folklore studies. Likewise, beyond accessibility, I propose that the future of folklore and folkloristics must adopt a broader interdisciplinary approach to create more successful communities. Online, we see that folklore is often shared in regard to questions such as what, when, or how it came to exist. But these questions alone can lead to aesthetic cherry-picking and a sanitization of our collective history, which is why I strongly support emphasizing the why folklore is shared. These are some of the disciplines I consider useful for this interpretation: museum studies, especially the concept of socially engaged practice and hidden history campaigns that seek to redress imbalance between mainstream and marginalized communities, heritage theory, in particular, the relatively new concept of emotional heritage, which considers that the feelings arising from engaging with heritage are also heritage, psychology, specifically since one of the functions of folklore can be to act as a tool for processing trauma and grief, for instance via storytelling, psychomotor therapies, or ritual practice, and philosophy, particularly phenomenology and existentialism, which may help us understand the role of folklore as both a personal and communal meaning-making process in a meaningless world. As stated by existential philosopher Emmy van Deurzen, well-being coincides with the ability to be transparent and open to what life can bring, both good and bad. In trying to evade the negative side of existence, we get stuck as surely as we do when we cannot see the positive side. It is only in facing both positive and negative poles of existence that we generate the necessary power to move ahead. In that regard, what is community? To me, it's a space where people with shared interests engage on equal footing. What it is not is a place where authority figures mine other community members to extract ideas for their own gains. A striking example is a case I plan to discuss on my blog in coming weeks, relating to Joan White, whose alleged remains were on display at the Museum of Witchcraft in Boscastle for decades. Evidence of her existence is scarce, however, with researchers unable to verify her birth or death in official records. As such, many believe Cecil Williamson, the museum's founder, fabricated her story, imposing it onto a pagan community already grappling with historical trauma. Yet over time, the community reclaimed this narrative, turning forced knowledge into meaningful folklore, and demonstrating authenticity can be subjective when used to confront difficult histories and foster healing. I wish I had more time to explore each of these ideas in depth, so I hope that this presentation sparks further discussions, as I believe that to foster truly involving folklore communities, we must embrace the social model of disability as a reminder that accessibility is a collective responsibility. Likewise, we should explore interdisciplinary approaches that can improve empathy and collaborative practice. Psychology and existentialism, in particular, might offer valuable insights into a core function of folklore, which is to understand and address trauma, which is vital for ensuring that folklore celebrates everyone's lived experience, instead of current trends towards competition and rivalry. Folklore has untapped potential to reconcile both the good and the bad of our human experiences, strengthening both individual and societal well-being. So why can't we use it that way?
That's fantastic. Some really insightful points and a lot we can take forward into actual practice there. Caroline, would you like to give your intro?
My name's Caroline, and I'm a habitual wearer of black leggings, baggy jumpers, trainers and hats, hence the avatar. I'm the librarian and administrator at the Folklore Society, and the Folklore Society's business is mainly publishing about folklore in our quarterly journal, Folklore, and our newsletter, FLS News. We also maintain a library which is stored at University College London, and they do all the distribution for us. We answer lots of inquiries. Basically, that's me and the assistant administrator, Claire Collins. And inquiries come from lots and lots of different people. School kids who want help with their essays, students who've got dissertations to write and need some bibliographical materials, academic researchers who want access to things that we've got in our archives, and general public people with folklore questions. Sometimes it's things like the origin of Santa Claus. This past week, somebody was asking, why did Walt Disney vary the mirror, mirror on the wall in the 1937 cartoon and turn it into magic mirror? So sometimes the inquiries can be a lot of fun to answer. The Society also runs conferences, at least 3 a year, a book award, 2 student awards. We have online talks twice a month.
Experiences of the digital, including 2 projects with the Lego Foundation into children's digital play and wellbeing, and also a project with artists and creatives and schools, including the writer of Go Jetters, which was completely exciting, around digital storytelling in schools. And I was also part of the Play Observatory project between Sheffield and UCL, which explored children's play and law during COVID-19. And alongside that, I co-organised the Contemporary Folklore Research Centre at Sheffield University, which is led by Professor Fayhield, and it's a very friendly centre, and everybody's welcome to come along to our reading group and events and seminars and things like that. So that's me.
Mark, would you like to give your intro?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Mark Norman. My pronouns are he, him. For those that need it, my avatar is based on a selfie of myself, so has grey hair and is wearing glasses, but thankfully looks much more youthful on screen than it does in the real world. I am wearing a very natty brown tailcoat, or 1970s beige affair if you prefer, with a purple waistcoat and purple bow tie, topped off with a flower, because why not? I am a public folklorist and independent researcher and author based in the world of no Wi-Fi down here in Devon. Thanks for visiting, Dee Dee. Many of you will know me for the past 10 years as being the creator and host of the Folklore podcast. So the Folklore podcast was created back in the days when podcasts weren't really a thing, and was one of the first internet podcasts to shine a light on folklore as a discipline. I think beforehand there had only been 1 or 2 kind of comedy-based podcasts, and Aaron Mankey's Law, which was more of a kind of fireside tale show, which landed about 6 months before my podcast took place. And over that time, I have endeavoured to be an inclusive platform for the world of folklore for everybody by providing free access to the world's experts in the fields of folklore and anthropology and other adjacent areas, and authors and artists and everybody who works in the genre. So for this 10-year period, the show has been and still is free to access and available to everybody as a platform. In more recent years, I am also now the founder of the Folklore Library and Archive, which is a registered charity dedicated to the presentation, to the preservation of folklore materials in all formats, with a particular interest in personal collections and at-risk archives and saving those. And again, to make these materials freely available to everybody without any boundaries of geography or ability to access as far as is possible. So no paywalls, everything is open access and free to use. One of the trustees of the charity is in this very auditorium, so I'm going to be on my best behaviour and try and present us in a good light. So the Folklore Library and Archive grew out of the podcast, was originally my own project, but then I registered with the Charities Commission to turn it into a public charity for the benefit of everybody. And in fact, our constitutional aim is to provide open access to folklore materials for everybody, for the public good. Outside of that, I have published a number of books which attempt to take an academically rigorous but accessible approach to different aspects of folklore, everything from traditional customs and seasonal events through to my last book, which was looking at representations of folklore and mythology in the world of Scooby-Doo. So I did indeed start to cross over into pop culture, I guess, in the last bit as well. I think that sums up most of the things that I'm known for. The library and archive is probably the main thing that I would need to focus on in this panel. We provide access for materials both digitally and in person, and we've been working on a number of inclusive events. We have work that we're doing with a local organisation which looks to help and employ adults with additional needs. They've been coming into the library and using our reference library to research folklore and fairy tales for one of their inclusive presentations that they'll be giving shortly. We provide volunteering opportunities to people both in person and virtually, and we've had 2 or 3 people come and work with us from areas of neurodiversity and people who work with carers and have done some really sterling work in our collections, helping to catalogue and volunteer. Yes, Steve, I do also dress as one of the characters from Scooby-Doo, as well as one of my live presentations. Well spotted. I will keep an eye on the chat because I know the sorts of things that people put in it. So we are looking to work across the board with these sorts of things and provide a safe and inclusive platform for everybody who wants to work with folklore and folklore materials in all forms. But where we're slightly different to Caroline and those at the Folklore Society, I guess, is that we aren't taking the academic approach as our first principle, but we take our first principle from the accessibility approach, and the two hopefully meet in the middle and have done very successfully up until now. So both the Folklore Society and the Folklore Library and Archive were project partners with Paul and Matt on the Folklore Without Borders project, and are both also project partners on the new National Folklore Survey Part 1 England, which is coming up in the next 12 months as well. So on the whole, yeah, lots of things. There you go.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark. So we have quite a diverse panel today, so that's really lovely to see. Huge apologies for the tech issues there. Let's start off with the question to everybody. Maybe, Caroline, we could start with you first and work our way along the row, if you feel comfortable with that. What does the phrase inclusive community engagement mean to you, and what are the benefits?
Well, to me, it basically means sharing and including as many people as possible and leaving as few people out. As I explained to Paul the other day, one of my most hated jobs as part of my work for the Folklore Society is writing emails to people who've not been selected to give their papers at our conference. So, because I would like to give everybody the chance. However, there's not enough space on the programme. Being inclusive, trying to make people welcome, whoever they are. Sometimes I don't succeed at that, makes me sad, but we do keep trying and learning from experience. Trying to keep in contact with other related groups, such as Mark with the Folklore podcast, with Paul and Matt with Folklore Without Borders, and we've even got a certain amount of involvement with the British Academy's Reimagining Folklore that's coming up in April. We do get out to as many kindred societies events as we possibly can, but to be honest, it's gratifying to see so much interest in folklore these days, and there's just not enough hours in the day or week to be able to attend as many as I'd like. We don't really do much outreach, and we probably could do a lot more. We're more in a position of waiting for people to contact us with an inquiry after they've heard about us. So that could be an area for improvement. Over and out.
Great, thank you. That's actually a really good way of ending. So yeah, we should all do that. Fantastic, thank you. So that really looks at the challenges as well, because it's not always easy. Catherine, would you like to share your experience of that and
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I'm a researcher. So from my perspective, it's more hoping that communities will include us and choose to engage with us. Academia is positive about community partnerships in research, but we are, I think it was mentioned earlier, we're frequently the ones approaching communities. In my case, it's been schools and youth organisations, and asking to be invited to participate and learn from their cultures and their activities. So for me, I suppose inclusive community engagement means, first of all, giving communities a really good reason to work with us as academics, because as has been said before many times, why should they? And then ensuring that we act in ways which are co-participatory and that communities benefit from our involvement in their lives, I suppose, which means treating people as experts in their own lives and their own law, and establishing at the beginning what they want to get from working with us. I think there are immense benefits if we get it right in terms of knowledge exchange and providing a platform for those that we're working with and creating understanding. And also, I suppose one advantage of academia is through kind of like sharing this knowledge, we can validate people's lives and activities, and especially for children, because often when children's play is talked about, they talk about, you know, the triviality barrier, where it's seen as very frivolous or very twee. And for my work, that's particularly important because we are an adultist society. Children are marginalised. Their activities do get scrutinised and judged while they're doing incredibly creative things. Particularly with online play, there's a lot of anxieties over children and screen time. Their creativity gets devalued or treated as time wasting. So for me, the types of community engagement we do means that perhaps we can help change conversations, I suppose. I think.
Fantastic. I think it's really interesting as well because you work with children. It's quite a different thing. Mark, same for you. Not working in academia, that must be a very different thing for you. Can you tell us about your ideas?
Well, it's certainly liberating, apart from anything else, I think, not working in academia, because I, on many occasions, hear the frustrations of people who are working in academia and have the most amazing work that they want to do but can't, because they are tied to the constraints of the way that they need to work within a research framework or within the establishment budgetary framework, or for whatever reasons. So they're kind of, they lose a certain amount of that inclusivity just by being there in the first place, which is it's a sad and difficult state of affairs for people who are working that way to deal with, because there's so much more that they could do, which is why this kind of partnership working, as Cath says, there is so important, because there are ways, and we found this through Folklore Without Borders and with other things as well, where the constraints of one side of a partnership can be overcome by the other side of the partnership, and the two will naturally enhance each other. I mean, as far as inclusive community engagement, with the terminology in the question goes, I mean, it really boils down at the end of the day, I think, to an ability to engage with the communities with whom you're working without disadvantaging anybody. That is working inclusively within a community at the end of the day. And there are loads of ways that we could look at that. But in terms of our work, I think probably a really useful one is the work we do with our oral history recording. So we've got a couple of projects. We work in partnership with the public library, where the reference library for the Folklore Library and Archive is housed, on an oral history reminiscence project for the local area. That's a national lottery funded project which is running for a couple of years, and that's to record people's reminiscences, people's memories, the social history of the area. But the way that you go about that is where the inclusivity and the importance of this lies, because yes, you're creating a record for the future, and there are really valuable things to come out of that. So we recorded a lady in a care home who sadly passed away about 6 months after we recorded her interview. And the majority of her family lived in Australia, and that was their last opportunity to hear her voice, to hear her speak through that project. And that was really important and very valuable to us. But over and above that, we interview many people who are housebound, who have no ability to travel. So we have a team of volunteers who go and record people in their own homes. And for many of the people that we speak with, that social interaction might be the only social interaction that they have or have had that week. So the health and well-being aspects of what on the surface just looks like a project to record social history, they actually far outweigh the original remit of the project at all. And that's the kind of inclusivity that I think we're looking for. It's thinking around how we're working with the community to ensure whatever the barriers are that people have, we can find a way to overcome them.
That's fantastic. So it's really not folklore for folklore's sake. It's really adding social value there and a huge impact, I'll imagine. That's lovely. So Joana, you're actually coming from a very different angle. You're coming more from an inclusion first angle as your particular specialism. So I'm fascinated to hear your take on this.
Yeah, well, as Mark said, he is breaking down barriers for people to get involved in the oral history project. And I think that is using the social model of disability without knowing that you're using it. It's basically recognizing that each person has a different access need, and it is perfectly okay to adapt to those needs rather than just expect everyone to accept the standard. Due to access needs myself, I prefer to read my answers, so I'm going to do that now and read out what I had written about inclusive community engagement. To me, means fostering a space where people not only contribute to their community, but also allow the community itself to evolve through collaboration with others. Strong communities are not just those that shape their members, but those that remain open to being shaped by them in return. I see that the benefits of this approach are immense. By embracing cross-cultural connections and recognizing shared lived experiences, we create more opportunities for meaningful friendships, partnerships, and support networks. In folklore, there is a popular phrase, "Re-enchantment is resistance," but I would argue that community is resistance, sharing resources, caring for one another, and ensuring that no one is left behind due to social, economic, or political barriers. These are the true acts of resistance against the increasing individualism of late-stage capitalism and techno-feudalism. Division is born from a need to feel self-important. But truly inclusive communities are built on solidarity rather than rivalry. Their greatest strength lies in their ability to stand firm against external pressures, fostering a fairer, more compassionate society. Over and out.
That's amazingly insightful. Thank you so much. That's a really lovely idea that the action has to come from within. And I think that's a great concept within inclusion. You know, it is coming from the grassroots level, and it is often best done by the people in the community itself. If I could ask the whole panel, so do just jump in if you have an answer. What would you say is your biggest barrier to being inclusive? And do you have any practical solutions for that, or just no solution? do just jump in.
I prepared an answer for this question as well, if you would be open for me to read it out.
Fantastic, thank you.
So for me personally, I have struggled with two challenges. The first is the paradox of tolerance. I want the communities I engage with to be open and accepting, but does that mean tolerance should extend even to intolerance? While setting boundaries can be essential for protecting mental well-being, it can indeed be a better world if we first seek to understand why people develop certain behaviors. To navigate this, I've set myself a system of asking myself, does this person have a reason for their behavior? If so, are they open to reflection and change, or are they simply choosing to be cruel? If it's the latter, then yes, stepping away is not only preferable, but necessary. The second challenge has been to demonstrate my genuine commitment to inclusivity and platforming different voices, especially since no one is an expert on every single topic. My blog, for instance, is always open to guest contributions, and I make this clear wherever possible. However, I cannot and should not force people to take part. The door is open, but if people don't walk through it, is that a failing on my part, or is it a reflection of the sector as a whole? When the leading names in a field do not prioritize inclusive and collaborative practices, that attitude trickles down to smaller projects. If the most influential figures are not seen fostering partnerships, why should others? The same issue exists in the museum sector. If major institutions are not held accountable for exclusive practices, how can the public trust that the rest of the sector is any different? And that is why I hope that this conference will be a step towards renewing that spirit of collaboration in folklore, because inclusivity is not just an aspiration, it must be a shared commitment. Over.
That's fantastic. I think that's a really fantastic note to end on, actually, because we're nearly on at time. I think that need for collaboration is definitely what we're seeing here today. And it's interesting, on the panel, we've seen a few people talk about, in essence, an open door policy in terms of being their inclusion approach. And it would be fabulous to be able to talk about that specifically in future and expand on all of these ideas that we've had today. I do feel like there's just not been enough time to talk about all of these amazing ideas that are coming up. So I will say we are running close to 3 o'clock, and I am aware that people often do need to run out. So huge thank you to everybody for appearing today and giving us your concepts of inclusive communities and community engagement. I will say, if anybody would like anything sent out to attendees, we are gathering things together to email across. So thank you to everyone on the panel. That's been amazing to hear your ideas and learn a lot about your work as well. So with that, I will just say again, thank you so much to everyone who's spoken today and also contributed in the chat. Is the space to continue these conversations through a follow-up Folklore Without Borders co-event? That's a very interesting question. I think that's one we should discuss when there's some internet. Definitely. Thank you everybody for coming along and contributing and sharing your ideas. I think we've drawn out so many important things today, and I think the one thing that we can all take away is that these conversations need to happen more, and there's so much more to say. So I will add, there is another session tomorrow at the same time, 11 till 3. What we're going to do tomorrow is focus very much on the conversation, and I'm going to make sure that we're moving away from the screen sharing, because that's obviously not been ideal today, and I can only apologise to those involved and hope that we can navigate that much better tomorrow. There are a few tickets left for tomorrow. Today was a sellout, which is excellent. So if you'd like to come along tomorrow, there is space. Do go and grab a ticket if you haven't got one already. And it would be fabulous to see you all here again tomorrow for more discussions around the theme of inclusive storytelling. We have a lot of Q&As tomorrow and some fantastic talks planned, and even a performance. So do join us. Right now, it is 3 o'clock, so we will close it there. However, do feel free to stay in the space and just have a chat with others, have a look around the galleries. There are 2 amazing exhibitions from 2 artists from the community, Paul Watson and Lucy Wright. They're up in the galleries. My sound is perfect now. Excellent. Yes, I think the sharing is what the problem is. I'm going to try and not share anything tomorrow, and we'll just hopefully stay with good sound. So do stay if you'd like. The space is generally open. I close it down when we're fixing galleries and things like that. So do just pop in if you ever just want to browse or see if there's anyone here to talk about folklore. And hopefully see you tomorrow. So thank you so much for everyone again. If we could give all of the speakers and panelists a round of applause, that would be fabulous. And if anybody would like to do some body popping, that is also an option. Fabulous. Thank you everybody for coming along and for bearing with us with all of the tech issues we've had today. It's experimental, we're doing a new thing, and I really appreciate your patience and staying around all day. Thank you again, and hope to see you tomorrow. Bye everybody. I will turn the local sound back on if anybody wants to have more private conversations with others.